Hi, everyone. I'm Diane Brady. I'm here with Captain Sandy Yawn, who's, of course, a world-renowned super yacht captain, also captain on Below Deck Mediterranean. And last, certainly not least, Sandy, author of, is it Be the Calm or Be the Storm? Is your
Be the
late?
calm.
I
Yeah.
love that. You've been firing a lot of people lately, I see on TV. What's going on? Let's start with that. Start with the
Well,
tough stuff.
okay. So, the last thing I want to do is fire people. Let's just put that out there. Secondly, I'm there to do a job. And if they're not doing their job like they're required to do, I have conversations with them. Gently remind them they signed up to do a job. This isn't about drinking and having fun or drama or relationships. This is actual job. And if you don't do that job, then I have to let you go. And that's basically it. And when two people are fighting and screaming, of course, someone's getting fired, right? So you can't, in the workplace, people think because you're on a yacht, it's different than working in the corporate world. Well, it isn't. We're serving the people who own these yachts and who charter them, who are corporate people. So why is our behavior different than the corporate world? It never should be. We have to add that extra layer of entertainment. We're a
Uh,
floating restaurant. We're a resort. We are personalities
Yeah,
that,
it's reality
you got to keep
TV
the
too,
energy
right?
up.
You want some drama, because to make for good TV. But one of the things that intrigues me, Sandy, is leading across the generations in essence, and you've got a lot of young people that come on. There is a lot of drama. I don't want to sound like I'm of a different generation, which I am, but have you noticed any differences in terms of how you lead millennials, Gen Z, versus peers? Or is that, oh, are we like
Yes.
overdoing that because, we've all been 20 once and it,
No, yeah, I think different than when we were kids. Honestly, growing up in the world we grew up in, we had to work hard. Um, Very different times. I always often wondered, why do they not think they have to work hard? It just blows my mind. And why the difference in mentality? And a friend of mine said to me, I didn't want to raise my kids like my parents raised me. So that means hands off,
mm,
not hands on. And I think when you have that, it's a different mentality. And that's something as a leader you have to adjust to. You can't change people like you have to do it this way or you're fired. It's about approach, right? And learning how to navigate those personalities to get the best out of them, to make them feel like, which I am, it's not fake, like I'm investing in them because I want my ROI
mm-hmm.
to be tenfold, right? So I want that loyalty, the trust. So I have to be that for them. And that's how I lead. Like I know my ultimate job is to provide a level of service that pleases the client, ultimately has a repeat client. And when that information gets back to the owner of the vessel, I still have a job.
I
Because
want
it's
to,
about my job, really,
well,
at
they
the end of
should
the
want
day.
your job, right? You want people to be ambitious. One of the things that intrigues me, I saw in the book, was your own personal history. Let's start with the ADHD, because that's something that gets a lot of attention these days. Some people consider it a strength, a challenge. How was it for you growing up?
Listen, I wasn't aware of it when I was growing up, but I was always getting report cards. Sandy's, you know, not paying attention. She's very distracted. I remember get like second grade. I remember reading that report card going, why was I such a bad kid? But it wasn't that I was a bad kid. I just had this brain that bing, 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 the very squirrel like brain. And my sister used to say, you go get your nut, and then you like see another nut, and you go grab that nut. And then my dear friend Jennifer Berman said, if you can't keep up, don't blame me. So the reality is in the yacht world, we are formed. We had two phones. We're having conversations with the crew, logistics at the airport, tenders to and from shore. We have to have the multitasking brain. I think it's such a negative thing for a lot of people. But yes, one thing at a time and training your brain to be able to focus on and complete a detail. How many people start talking to you after they ask you a question and they talk over you? It's
Yeah.
like, well, I just want to get to that. I've been driving people around and trying to stay focused on the autopilot and where I'm navigating while so many different conversations are going on at one time and they're asking questions. And you're like, hold on. Because I've learned to zero focus in on what I'm doing at the moment. I also have this where I make a list and I'm methodical where I go, okay, I did that, I did that. Yes, I get distracted, but then I always come back to my list.
Well, but it's good
So
pattern
I think
thinking.
it's twofold.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a superpower,
Yeah.
right? And it's also training your brain to circle back. And that's what I've learned to do.
So talk about some of the tactics. One of the things that fascinates me is your collaborator, Samantha Marshall, told me that nobody parks a super yacht better than Captain Sandy. So how does one park a super yacht? I imagine it's A, hard to do, B, just walk me through it in your own mind. You're in the boat. What do you do?
Okay. Practice, practice. I had a lot of practice. To think that I could step on a super yacht without practice is wrong. Every time I go to dock a boat, environment's different, currents are, in different direction, wind, all these factors play a role in maneuvering a vessel that weighs 1,000 tons, right? So there are no brakes. You can't just go, stop, and the boat sits still. The current moves it, the wind moves it. So you're in constant motion. And that's when I zero focus, is that I have to pay attention to the wind, the current, the reaction that the boat's having to these elements, and I maneuver. And then you have to think about, what if the bow thruster doesn't work? I lose an engine. Where's my safe place to go? And that's what I think. Where's my exit so I don't crash? And I always have that plan of exit. And it is practice. And I am the most quiet and calm that I think I ever experienced when I'm docking a boat. Had a friend, he's a pilot, and once he got into some trouble in the air, and he goes, Sandy, when you have those, your mind's always got thoughts running through it. He goes, in that moment, I was so focused. There were no thoughts going through my head, and I was so focused on solving the problem. And that's how I dock a boat, is nothing else goes through my head. You could have 150 people on the dock going, look at this, look at this. I don't see them. I don't hear them. I am zero focused on my task at hand. That is maneuvering this vessel onto the dock without crashing it.
Well, and most of us won't get that opportunity. We are not going to be super yacht captains. With the book, what the clear message, I can tell to some extent from the title, but who are you directing this book toward? Who are you trying to reach, and what's the message?
Honestly, CEOs of companies and managers, and even household people who run households, mothers, children, like anyone could read this book and learn from it. I wanted to reach all audiences because the reality is these are all things that I learned in life. Like someone said, why are you so happy? You seem so calm. You seem to diffuse things really well. And I'm like, I am 58 years young, and I've had a lot of practice and to learn how not to react, but to respond. So to me, that little action is a huge action. If it goes the other way, that's great. So if you're a parent and you're leading a household, you're a mom, you have a disagreement with your kid, and before you head to work, how do you shift that energy in the car so when you show up at work, you can lead your team without taking out what happened with your kid, right? Your teenager. That is so hard. So many times I've walked out of my cabin after a phone call and had to reset myself. So I didn't unload on them everything I had on my shoulders. That takes practice. It's not something you're born with. It's something that you learn. And I've learned over the years who not to be, how not to react, but to respond, and how to learn to take a pause, right? To look at my feet, take a breath, and look up and respond. That's all learning. And to me, if I can help give people tools that will help them in life, in business, and in school, then to me, that's who this book benefits. People who want to change, who want to find a better way to communicate, who want to be better when they wake up every day and say, I want to see what I can do better as a human being. And that's really the whole backstory of this book, and my collaborator I totally love. She totally got me, and we worked so well together. And I'm so grateful. I interviewed 12 and I picked
And you
Sam.
picked a good one. Well,
That's
I
meant
want
to
to
be.
talk about
Yeah.
the fact that this has not been, born a winner and here she is still winning. You did overcome some diversity. Was there a key moment for you or a key tool that you feel was a breakthrough for you?
I was in and out of treatment, and honestly,
Treatment
it's
for
a change had to happen because I have alcoholism, which
Yep.
is a real disease, like it's in the medical journals. And I had to, remove that substance out of my life and work on my personality and my character. And I had to learn to rebuild character and get rid of some that wasn't so great. And when I did that, it was a daily practice and a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of what I do for myself every day, whether that's writing affirmations or, promptly admitting when I'm wrong and making amends. It's all stuff that prepares you for the next thing. And if you don't take care of all that stuff in the past and you don't clean it up and redirect, you're going to bring it with you into your future, into your now. And those are the tools the tools I learned to take care of that so I don't bring it here and I don't affect my future, right? And I want people to know who I used to be. I want employers to know that you can invest in someone and they're going to be loyal. Like if you give people opportunities, CEOs out there, managers, don't just fire because you're upset. Pause and take a breath. Maybe these people have something going on in their life. Maybe you could help them. And that's a big part of why I put my history in this book, to shift the minds of so many people in leadership to say, hey, something's going on here. Let me see if I can help. And maybe sometimes people don't want it. And that's when you say, I'm so sorry. I have to let you go because you're not doing your job. You're coming to work every day hungover, or you smell like alcohol at work or whatever it is. Like to be able to pause and take a moment and think, hey, can I shift this individual by actually spending some time with them and trying to help them out.
It's interesting. Your excellence in the yachting world preceded your stardom, in the television world. I'm curious how they have impacted each other. So, the fact that you are a recognized star now, does that make it easier or more challenging to do what in essence remains your day job of being a captain?
Great question. I love this question. Twofold. Bravo took a show and they showed the world there is an industry you can work in. They showed the world what you can do if you're not college bound, that there's a maritime industry that's here for you. If college isn't your road to travel, you can work in this industry. Thousands and millions of people see this. And we need people in our industry. We're all aging out. We need crew. We need carpenters, electricians, plumbers in shipyards. You build boats. You're in sales. You could be a yacht crew. You could be a yacht chef. You could be an engineer. There's so many jobs here. And guess what? You don't have to go to college to work in this industry, which is great, which a lot of parents can't afford. The other part is, for my industry, more people are chartering. That's why we need more people to work in it. It's crazy because during COVID, everybody had their boats. You couldn't buy a boat. All used boats. Boats were gone. And the market's still very strong. And builders are 14 years out with some builds. If you go to buy a big yacht, you're going to wait 14 years before you get your boat. That's how many people are on the line. So it's really interesting how that's really affected our industry. People are traveling where they never thought it, Croatia. I can't tell you how many people came up to me and said, oh my God, we're going to Croatia for the first time because we saw it on your show. We're going, places they never thought of. And that's the impact. And it's impacting the economy as well, which is really great. People are spending.
You must have a lot of people come up to you and talk about their own brands. Everybody that is on your team thinks about their brand. How do you think about your brand right now and what it is and what you want it to be?
Interesting. I never really thought of a brand until I got on this TV show. Honestly, I never impacted my mind, like entered my mind. When I got on this show, I realized that who I connect myself with, and I learned this when I got sober, is it really speaks volumes about who I am and how I walk through life. So I'm very discerning who I connect with because it has to resonate with me and it has to be authentic. Like, this is something I really love. If someone hands me a product and says, hey, I'll pay you this much money if you say you love the product. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try the product. I'm going to see if I really like it. Mm-hmm. And then yes. And if it doesn't, I turn down a lot of stuff. Now, looking at the brand, I see myself as a business person that wants to do something with a purpose to make money. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I am a yacht captain. I create dreams and I get paid. It's a big responsibility, but being on the TV show, now I'm creating something. I'm still a yacht captain, still, helping people with their dreams come true. But then there's another layer where millions of people are watching. So I'm a role model now. So let's be good, Sandy. This is what I think to myself. Don't get mad. And if you get mad, try to contain your vulgar sailor talk. Like, I do swear once in a while. Yeah,
I like vulgar sailor talk.
I think about that because when I start saying the F word, that's when I'm really mad. And I try not to I try not to go there because when that word comes out, I'm mad.
Is there anything as a leader that you have not accomplished yet that would still be, let's look on the horizon as to where you want to go next? What's the dream for you?
Honestly, the dream for me is to get this animated series made. That's one dream, to help the younger kids see that when I was in, elementary school, you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be, lawyer, doctor,
teacher.
I forgot. Like, you had all these choices in elementary. I wanted to go, I could be a captain. I can work in the maritime industry. I want that to exist. So that's through an animated series. Also, I created a charity to help fund an in-school high school program for schools across the country. I partnered with Young Minds Inspired, where teachers can download a curriculum as an elective for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, so they see, hey, my grades aren't great, I'm not going to college, my parents can't afford college, so why not try the maritime industry? So those two things are really, really what I'd love to see happen.
Great. So the book is Be the Calm or Be the Storm. Sandy Yawn, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.